Um, so, I mean, you know what I'm talking about, right? Every language has them, those little words and sounds that we use to fill gaps when we're thinking, hesitating, or buying ourselves a bit of time. And British English has some particularly interesting ones. Today, we're looking at filler words, from the universal and to more specifically British expressions like I mean, sort of, and right. We'll look at why we use them, how they work, and crucially, which ones will actually make you sound more fluent and which ones to avoid. Because here's the thing, filler words are not mistakes. Used well, they're a sign of natural conversational competence. Used too much, they get in the way. So grab a cup of tea, have a pen and paper ready because there's a dictation at the end. And if you find this useful, hit subscribe. There's a new episode every Thursday. Let's go. Today, another episode of Cup of Tea with John. And if you're, well, there's no point in me saying if you're new, because none of you are. But today, I want to talk about a phenomenon in English and indeed in all languages. You'll probably be able to tell me some examples in your own languages. Have you ever noticed, for example, that you say things when you're speaking English like, you know, or sort of, or like, or anyway, while you're speaking? I'm sure you all do it. I certainly do. I notice it, especially when I record myself, which is daily, and then I listen to myself, and I can hear myself using these words. You know, sort of, like, anyway. These are called filler words, or technically they're called discourse markers. But we don't have to be technical, do we? They're called filler words, and we use them all the time, often without even realizing. So in today's dictation, I'm going to give you a short passage about how these phrases help us to manage conversations. Some people think they are just verbal clutter. There's a good word there, clutter. Clutter is like excess material, generally, excess objects. You know, in your house, you might have a room full of things that you never use. We call this clutter. C-L-U-T-T-E-R. Some people think these words are just verbal clutter, but when used well, they can actually signal fluency and confidence. I'll let you into a secret. When I first started making, well, a long time ago, when I was in Italy, and I used to organize study holidays for students, and I would take them to Britain. But in order to get the clients, I would have a big meeting stand in a hall and have a projector behind me, and I'd give a presentation. Now, of course, Italian is not my first language, and this was, you know, about 12, 13, 14 years ago. And so I used to write my entire speech before, and I would learn it word by word. But the problem with that is that it sounds like you've learnt it word by word. So once I'd learnt it, I would then add filler words on purpose so that it sounded like I was thinking. It sounded like I wasn't sure what was coming next. Okay, but I was sure, I was 100% sure. And so this is what I'm trying to say. These filler words, they can actually make your conversation sound more genuine and can signal fluency and confidence. They can also have the opposite effect depending on how you use them. If you use too many of them and you just go all the time, then obviously you're not going to sound particularly fluent. But anyway, so So I'll just quickly explain what we do here. This is a cup of tea with John, and it's a dictation exercise. So you're going to need a pen and paper, and in about 10 minutes, we're going to start a dictation, and you should write everything that I say. Now, I've aimed this at upper intermediate to advanced level. There will be some complex vocabulary, but I will read everything twice and then a third time at the end so that you can fill in any gaps. Today, we're talking about filler words. Words like anyway, you know, sort of. So before we start, let's have a little introduction as to why we use filler words. Do you have any in your own language? Put them in the chat if you do. Any filler words that you use to just fill up the conversation, or maybe if you're not sure what you're going to say next, what do you say in your language? So why do we use filler words? Firstly, to buy time. To buy time. So filler words like you know, or well, they give speakers a moment to think in order to maybe organize your thoughts or to decide what to say next, especially during spontaneous speech. For example, well, I hadn't really thought about that before. Or let me see, I think it was about 5 years ago. So it can give you a little bit of extra time, which can be really handy if you speak in another language. And you know, when I listen to people speaking in another language, or speaking English rather, if they use filler words, to me, if it's a native speaker, sometimes it can sound hesitant. But if it's someone from another language and they're using these, they sound more fluent very often, you know? Or here, for example, like in Russian, you might say tak or something like that. In Italian, it might be allora. You know, in French, it might be donc or something like that. And these little words, when it's used by a foreigner, they can make your language actually sound better. Number two, why do we use filler words? Well, to mask, sometimes to mask hesitancy or uncertainty. I'm not sure, but I think she might be moving to Spain. It's kind of difficult to explain, you know. So you can signal using these words that you feel unsure or uncomfortable, or you're approaching a sensitive or unfamiliar topic without making the silence feel really awkward. Okay, I'm not sure, but I think she might be moving to Spain. But that's not all. We also use them to maintain conversational flow. So instead of falling silent, speakers use these fillers to keep the conversation moving smoothly, even when searching for the right word or idea. So anyway, as I was saying, before we got interrupted, well, you know, I saw him yesterday at the station. Now, as with everything, it's good in moderation. You've got to be careful because some people overuse, especially or that can be quite irritating. Okay, so especially if it's after every word. So anyway, as I was saying, please don't do that. Please. In that case, silence is better. Trust me. And it does happen. And finally, we might use them to sound more natural and relaxed. So in informal contexts, using filler words can make speech feel more spontaneous, like I used to do with my Italian speeches, to make it sound more human and approachable rather than stiff or overly rehearsed. Like, I didn't really get what he meant, but I nodded anyway. It was, one of those days where nothing goes right. So we understand the value of these filler words. We understand why we use them. Let's have a look at what you people have said. So in Italian, diciamo, in German, alzo. Yeah, I remember, yeah, alzo. In Spanish, digo. Mm-hmm. What about in Arabic? You must have some filler words. You're going to write it in Arabic now, and I won't be able to read it, but yeah. Anyway, oh, thank you. Yeah, exactly. They sometimes say that. I was going to say it myself, but you got there first, so thank you. All right. So I'm looking forward to learning some Arabic. Well, I know I'm going to fit that in my schedule, to be honest with you. But anyway, so we're going to do dictation. You should go and get a pen and paper. Okay. And I'm going to dictate a 100-word passage about the use of filler words. Hi, Maria and Bob. Just Maria. So, as always, I will read a sentence. I'll pause. I'll give you time to write. I will write as well. The reason I write is so that I don't go too fast. So I'll read, start to write, and it helps me to not dictate too quickly. Okay, because I've got to write it too. And then I'll read it again. I'll pause, and then I'll move on. If you haven't written everything, just leave a space, and then I'll read the whole text again at the end, and you can fill in any missing words. Then at the end of the dictation, I'm going to show you the text so you can check everything that you wrote. Now, there are some advanced words in this, so I know you can handle it because you guys are pretty good, eh? Let's get started. So you're writing on a piece of paper, not in the chat, okay? 3, 2, 1. Don't write 3, 2, 1. In spontaneous conversation, comma, in spontaneous conversation, comma, speakers frequently resort to discourse markers Speakers frequently resort to discourse markers and filler expressions to navigate pauses. And filler expressions to navigate pauses. Comma. Hesitations or topic shifts. Hesitations or topic shifts. Full stop. Phrases such as open inverted commas, comma, close inverted commas. Phrases such as inverted commas, comma, inverted commas. Inverted commas, so anyway, inverted commas. And inverted commas, I mean, inverted commas. So phrases such as you know, so anyway, and I mean. Function less as meaningful content. Function less as meaningful content. And more as strategic tools. And more as strategic tools. For maintaining fluency. For maintaining fluency. Full stop. While these expressions may appear redundant, they serve to manage interaction signal intent or buy time, for cognitive processing. Full stop. In British English, such fillers often convey subtle politeness. Reduce abruptness or gently steer dialogue in a new direction. Full stop. On the last sentence now. Used judiciously, they reflect conversational competence competence dash, but excessive reliance can hinder clarity. and dilute precision. And dilute precision. Okay, that's the end of the dictation. So I'll just give you a while just to relax. Is that how you relax? Do you relax like that? Probably not. What I mean is like to, get your circulation back in your, well, probably just that one actually, or that one if you're left-handed. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to read the whole text again. So if you had any spaces, then you can now hopefully fill them in. Okay, I'm going to go at normal speed now. So, in spontaneous conversation, speakers frequently resort to discourse markers and filler expressions to navigate pauses, hesitations, or topic shifts. Phrases such as, or so anyway, and I mean, function less as meaningful content and more as strategic tools for maintaining fluency. While these expressions may appear redundant, they serve to manage interaction, signal intent, or buy time for cognitive processing. In British English, such fillers often convey subtle politeness, reduce abruptness, or gently steer dialogue in a new direction. Used judiciously, they reflect conversational competence, but excessive reliance can hinder clarity and dilute precision. And that is the end of the dictation. Now I'm going to show you the text in a minute, but how was it? Tell me in the chat. How was the dictation today? Was it averagely difficult, easy, tricky? Good, says Patricia. It was good for me, says Samara. Good. Not bad, interesting. Not too difficult. Okay, let me show you. In spontaneous conversation, speakers frequently resort to discourse markers and filler expressions to navigate pauses, hesitations, or topic shifts. Phrases such as, so anyway, and I mean, function less as meaningful content and more as strategic tools for maintaining fluency. While these expressions may appear redundant, they serve to manage interaction, signal intent, or buy time for cognitive processing. In British English, such fillers often convey subtle politeness, reduce abruptness, or gently steer dialogue in a new direction. Used judiciously, they reflect conversational competence, but excessive reliance can hinder clarity and dilute precision. And that's it, guys. We've finished for another week. Take care. Have a lovely week, and I'll speak to you all very, very soon. Bye.